Tomorrow is Monday. Hello again, team. It's Jess or JashiiCorrin and her Ginormator notebook, and welcome back for another video. Today I'm taking you guys through my weekly reset, the purpose of which is to get me feeling prepared and ready for the week ahead, knowing what kind of things I need to get done, what events are coming up, really so that I can enter the next week with a sense of clarity. Today I'll be taking you through the steps of that weekly reset and the order that I do them in. But before we get to actually doing the weekly reset, we should probably decide on what steps are involved in the weekly reset. Take a shot every time I say weekly reset. No, please don't do that. That's seriously bad choices. Similar to the monthly reset checklist that I made in an earlier video, which is linked above and in the description box below, I started planning my weekly reset with a mind map style brainstorm. You may note that I did actually have a video at the start of the year where I set myself up a checklist for the weekly reset, but honestly that one had too many steps, it was just too involved, and thus I never really ended up doing it. I've also changed my planning style a fair bit since then, so a lot of the steps in that one aren't really relevant anymore. The goal I had in mind with the reset I'm brainstorming here is that I wanted it to be manageable, straightforward, and sensibly sequenced. I find that when I'm doing a weekly reset, one of the first things that I want to do is a brain dump. Naturally, I just want to do that first. But in my last reset checklist, that step came after a bunch of other things. Here though you can see, once I'd finished brainstorming the parts of my weekly reset, it was then time to think about the ordering of those steps. I decided to separate this into start, middle, and end, and then consider the things I wanted to do immediately before and after the reset process. With the sequencing of those steps done, it's now time to get into the reset. My pre-reset task is to get myself prepared in a positive way. I essentially want the reset to feel like an act of self-care. So I start by getting myself a nice drink, something other than my typical Coke Zero, and then I come back to my office and put on my weekly reset playlist. This has music that's enjoyable to listen to, but it won't distract me from the task at hand. I'll make sure the office has good lighting, and depending on how I feel, I might put on my Sensi just to add to the whole self-care feeling. The next step is to prepare my reset space, or in short, tidy up my desk. Between making my YouTube content and preparing my teaching stuff, I spend a lot of time at my desk each week. So it's really not that hard for my desk to get to a messy place. I want to make sure that when I'm doing my reset, I'm not distracted by any clutter that I could have tidied up beforehand. Now as my space is ready, it's time to start thinking about tasks. What I'll initially do is write a brain dump of anything and everything that I can think of that needs to get done, whether that be in the next week or otherwise. What I'll then do is check in with some other places that might help me think of other tasks that I need to add, and I'll also go looking for any events that are happening over the next week. This brain dump I'll either do on a piece of scrap paper or I'll do it digitally in Notion, but I'm not going to do it in my bullet journal because I want this to be unfiltered. Ideally, anything that's going in my bullet journal, in particular on my weekly spreads, is for that week. But I don't want to restrict myself to just writing down tasks that might need to get done next week. On here I also want to include things that might be ideas, might be things that I want to get done someday maybe, but not necessarily in the next week, and really anything else. By doing this on scrap paper or on Notion, it allows me to be a little bit more messy with my thinking. And because this is supposed to get all that mental clutter out, that's exactly what I need. As I said, once I've done my initial brain dump, I'll then go and check in with some other areas to think of other tasks. So this includes checking in with my bullet journal on my current weekly spread to see if there are any open tasks on there. I'll check in with my goal planner for any action steps that I want to work on. I'll also check my email inbox to not only clean up the clutter that's in there, but also pull out any tasks that I have hidden in those emails. And I'll also check in with my calendars to collect any events. Now as I've got my brain dump sorted with all of the tasks and events that I could think of, it's time to start thinking about which of these tasks am I actually going to do next week? Which ones are really someday maybe tasks, and which ones are just things that were on my mind, but realistically I don't need to do. When it comes to selecting the tasks that I'm going to be doing in the coming week, my main concern really is time. How much time do I have to get things done, considering the events I have coming up? Here I'm using colours to sort my tasks by type. I won't necessarily do this every week, but for the purpose of this video, I figured I'd show you what I meant. So all of the tasks that I intend to do in the coming week are going to end up on my weekly spread. All of the someday maybe tasks are going to go on my someday maybe list in my bullet journal, and any other tasks will find relevant places depending on what they are. For instance, if they're really ideas rather than tasks, they'll go on a relevant idea list. If it's a reminder, I might set it as a reminder on my phone, etc. Once all of those tasks and events have been sorted into their categories, it's then time to start populating my weekly log. Finally. I typically like to start by putting the events in first, just so I can see which days are event heavy. Ideally, on a typical week, I'll put the events in the events section, but obviously when I opened this one up, I just forgot that I set up an events section. I did end up realizing when I was towards the end of populating this spread, but oh well. At least I'm still entering the week with more clarity around what's coming up and what I have to get done. Now as I've finished populating my journal, I don't quite have everything on this list crossed off yet. I figured some of these things I might actually get around to doing this evening, so I'm gonna wait and see if I get those things done, and if I don't, then they'll end up on next week's weekly. The final step that I have in my reset is to do something small but enjoyable. Because this is supposed to feel like a self-care activity, I want to finish it off with something a little fun. Which means now I'm gonna go and watch some YouTube. Well, we know what's really gonna happen, I'm gonna go and edit this video. But hey, if I wasn't filming this video right now, I'd go watch some YouTube. Question of the day for you guys though, what would you put in your weekly reset? Because mine's mainly about getting myself prepared for the week ahead and making sure I know what tasks are going on, some of my steps might look a little bit different to yours. Let us know in the comments below what you'd include. That's all I've got for you guys today, so as always, thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more on planning, productivity, and personal development. Until next time, bye! I'm gonna need to find some songs to put on my playlist that ain't Move, bitch, get out the way! See, the problem with filming while you do this is that your drink gets cold. Wouldn't have happened with Coke Zero.